Welcome and welcome back. It's another day. It's another amazing day in paradise. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you investing your time here to listen to what I have to say. And I'm just going to invite you to increase the playback speed on the video because even though sometimes I think I might talk fast, I do realize that in order to keep our attention, you can speed things up and it'll help. I am. This is technically video two of my Educate the Vote series. The learning series that I'm doing, which I consider as part one of my love letter of my Billet-doux to the children, youth, and young adults of Raleigh, North Carolina. And I say it's a love letter because I feel like our leadership, especially on the government level, our government level leadership has not focused on children in the past. Or else we would not be where we are. Like the contentious nature of our elections and even how we are growing our cities have had no connection to the generation that's going to inherit what is being done now, because the decisions that are being done now don't happen with a snap of our fingers. It takes 5, 10, potentially 15 or 20 years to get things done. And so the people who are going to be responsible for managing or taking care of whatever the consequences are of the decisions that are made now are our children. And so I feel like these two projects, the Educate the Vote and B3C with me, both are parts one and parts two of my Billet-doux, a mom's Billet-doux, a mom's love letter to the children, youth, and young adults of Raleigh that are here in Raleigh. And so I wanted to take a minute to introduce myself if you've never been on my platform before. First of all, my given name is Kara, Kara Lynn, Lynn Sanders, Sanders. And there are there are five things that I feel like you should know about me that would really, really describe who I am. The first is that I'm Wisdom's mom and student. And so when about 3 years ago, I started using the name, I really resurrected a name that I was called many years ago by a very special group of young ladies, and they would call me Mama Kai. Mama Kai, Kai. Kai. Kai is a nickname that I've had all my life, but they would call me Mama Kai. And so I tell everybody that that's really my superhero name because I am the mom and student of a vibrant, dynamic, charming, intelligent, creative, young black male superhero. And the name that God gave him is Wisdom. And he is my heart beating outside of me. He is an incredible human being. So that's the first thing. I am Wisdom's mom and student. The second thing second title or set of words that I would use to describe me is that I'm an emancipated parent coach. And that's probably like, people are like, what in the world is that? So emancipated is an interesting word. Most people don't even know it unless you're familiar with the Emancipation Proclamation. But emancipation is a word and it has a legal background, really. It stands for the legal separation of a child from their parents. I know that sounds like crazy, right? But the other definition of it is the freedom from bondage or slavery. And so that's the first part to understand what the word emancipate means. I actually take the two definitions and kind of mix them up together and suggest that to be emancipated for me means that I am separated from the way my nervous system gets triggered because of the way that I was raised. And I am free from that. It's a work in progress. I am a work in progress, but I am desiring to highlight the best and address the mess within myself so that I can have more peaceful relationships with myself and therefore have more peaceful relationships with others, especially my young black male superhero. And so, as a parent coach, that means I invite parents to do the same thing from a spiritual and a sacred space, to highlight the best and address the mess that's within themselves. And we use some science and we use scriptures to talk about this in order to have more peaceful relationships with themselves, so they have more peaceful relationships with others, including their spouses, but more especially their children, because this allows children to be children. And I say it allows children to be children, I call wisdom my young black male superhero, because, and I want to be specific about the superhero part, because the thing that's probably most important about superheroes, besides them saving lives, is that they change identity. Some superheroes technically we don't know the identity of. We don't know that Clark Kent is Superman or Bruce Wayne is Batman and things of that nature. And so that's the thing that's so important about children, is that they have the opportunity to change their identity. They might be really engaging around somebody that they know, or even around somebody that they just met that they feel comfortable with. And they might be reserved around family once again, or around strangers or people that they aren't familiar with, or they're just meeting for the first time. And so when I say that he's my young black male superhero, it means I gave him the space to change his identity based on how he feels about whoever we're around. And that's okay. That's okay, that he is his own person. And I invite parents to do the same thing for their children, that we need to allow our children to grow up and start life as children, not as thinking that they're adults in little bodies. So that's the second thing. The third thing is I'm an award-winning community advocate, and I'm going to build this up for you, because I want to talk about first my advocacy. It started in 2022 when I was hired as a parent consultant, and I worked on a project for the Department of Health and Human Services. It's this action plan for an early childhood homelessness support system, but basically it's an action plan to bring early childhood education services to families who are experiencing homelessness. And right here, I know it's backwards, but I hope you can see, it says Carlin Sanders, and then in parentheses is Momma Kai. That's me. I wrote the introduction. It's on page 3. Can you see that? It's not coming in clearly, but it's on page 3. So literally when you open this plan, if you have it in this form, it's on page 3. And there's a bunch of people that worked together on this, but I was one of 2 parent consultants. And so I was advocating for our youngest, most vulnerable residents here, our youngest, most vulnerable neighbors here in Raleigh, to have early childhood education services regardless of their housing status. And trying to see what I was looking for. I compiled a few things. So that's where it started. Oh, I know what I'm looking for. I didn't bring it over here. Wisdom. Do you see that magazine that I brought in? It's right there on the edge. It's right there on the edge of the bed. Can you bring that to me? Excuse me, y'all. I mean, this is just me being real time. And so part of the advocacy, that was that document. I worked on that project between 2022 and 2023. And I mostly was an advisor on that. So when the plan was put together, I read it, gave my feedback, did some, talked a little bit about what I felt should be included and things of that nature. And so, but it was compiled by Marcia Baslow and Dr. Mary Haskett, Dr. Mary Haskett is who hired me because it was a contract with NC State. And so along with that advocacy for children who are experiencing homelessness, I was also advocating for people in general. And this is a article from the Raleigh magazine. It's from July of 2023. And I'm featured in it. It's either June or July of 2023. And I'm featured in it because, in fact, my quote is what opens the article. And it says, "We need to see the humanity of every person as a person, says local Cara Sanders, a single mom who is currently living in her car with her 7-year-old son, Wisdom. We need to see the quote continues, we need to see their brilliance behind their bank account. And so we were featured in this article, Faces of Resilience, because I was serving on the joint City of Raleigh, Wake County task force at the time. And it was a group of people that met 8 times in 9 months and essentially accomplished nothing. I mean, and I laugh because if I don't, I get angry about it. Because within the first 2 months of me attending and participating from the lived experience perspective, I gave a presentation that the mayor actually sent me there to do with the approval of Stormy Fort, who was the city council member who was over this initiative, partnered with Vicki Adamson, who's a Wake County commissioner. And they ignored my plan. And it's okay. It's okay. We have these full circle moments, right? But I said I was an award-winning community advocate. So last year, hope you can see that, I received the certificate for outstanding engagement from Shaw University Divinity School. And it was presented to me for my work with their Nurturing Children and Youth for the Future program. And this came out of nowhere. I just got an email one day, and Dr. Talika McCoy, who is a professor there, said, "I'm nominating you. I'm nominating you for this award." Or it wasn't even a nomination. They were just gonna. She wanted to give it to me. Wasn't competing against anyone else. And so I showed up, and I was given this award during the ministers conference that they had last year. And so when I say I'm an award-winning community advocate, that's what I mean. Like, somebody recognized that I've been doing things, and they appreciated it. And I appreciate that. The last thing I want to say, number 4 is I'm a systems builder. And by systems builder, a lot of people don't know what that means, but I attended a workshop that's by the Waters Center for systems building. Is that what it's called? Oh my goodness, it was in April of 2023. And I was invited there as a parent leader. And this is where I learned the concept of system building. And before that, I didn't know what it meant. But since then, God has kind of like been, hey, let me show you what that means. And so the example that he put into my mind of what a system looks like and actually it wasn't how a system looks like, but it was how to dismantle a system. He showed me and brought my mind back to the Montgomery bus boycott. And so what happened in the Montgomery bus boycott is, we know the story of Rosa Parks refusing to get off the bus, getting arrested. And what happened was, and for those of you that don't know, she wasn't the first person to get arrested, but hers sparked something, especially during that time in our history. And what happened was the people decided to build a new system, right? They stopped riding the buses entirely. They did carpools, they walked, whatever. They just weren't taking the bus to get to where they needed to go. Okay. And so that dismantled the system of the way that it was, and it introduced it forced the system to change, right? For the better, to invite all people to sit where they wanted and all the things, right? And so that's what I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to dismantle the government system the way it is. I'm looking to build a new system that does what actually needs to get done so that the government can do what it needs to do, because they are two totally different things. I am of the belief that the things that happen in community can be handled by the community. And I feel like the church and our religious institutions all have a similar feeling, but have very little power. And so I would love to see a system that is built, the system that I'm working on is built upon principles that I believe are true, with the founding thought being that everyone has a is of infinite and intrinsic value, meaning that they came into this world with a value that doesn't end regardless of what they have experienced in life, and that in fact some of the greatest experts in different areas are the ones who have experienced something, you know. And so building this new system that's built upon the infinite and intrinsic value of every person looks very different than the system that we have today that was built initially upon not believing that. And so I wanted people to understand that I'm building a new system with what I'm doing, that I'm not just telling people to vote, I'm educating people, giving them information as to why they should vote, and also to how to get involved. And so the last thing that speaking of, I'm also going to, along with that, I do want to say these are only two other certificates that I've earned. This one was from November of 2024. It's from the Planning Academy, the Raleigh Planning Academy. It's a free course that's offered through the city. Excuse me, I dropped the other one. This one is from Citizens Leadership Academy. This was from December of 2024. I took them back to back. And then I also took Raleigh Neighborhood College, which I don't have the certificate for here. But I also took that one earlier in 2024 because when things were not playing out like I wanted to or like I thought they should after serving on the homelessness task force, then when I started looking at what the problem was with implementing what I suggested, then what I found was that there was more problems. And so that's where this came from. And so it was in that year, in 2024, that I ran for mayor. And if you look in the link or in the description of this video, you'll see my digital business card. And if you search and see the election tab, you can go in there and you can see some of the media. You can see my blog that I put up for my campaign and some of the media I was featured in because I was able to participate in 2 candidates forums, and I was featured in one article from one of the candidates forums that I spoke at. And that leads me perfectly into number 5, because the 5th reason is because I consider me and Wisdom Raleigh's most famous unhoused people. And that's because despite our lack of safe, secure, stable housing, there has been an incredible amount of things that I have accomplished, including becoming a parent coach. In fact, last year, one of the other certificates that I was able to complete was a certificate of completion for the Circle of Security Parenting program, which is done through Save Child. And I completed this. It was a 10-week program, I think, meeting weekly at Save Child. And so that just was something that I had done when Wisdom was about 2. And so 7 years later, about 7.5 years later, I was able to do it here because when I got back here, they didn't have it. And I was looking to become certified and be able to actually be a facilitator. And so the future of our children, of our youth, of our young adults is so important to me. And so that's why these series were created. One is a learning. That's why this video is here, so that you know a little bit about me, about what I've accomplished, what I'm accomplishing. And then the other one, the B3C with me, is all about what we can do as community to make our community a better place. What does that system look like? And so I'm going to end this video here because that video is coming up, and that's the video you should watch next, because that is going to tell you the steps, that one of the next step, or my goal, I should say, that I'm working on putting into place so that we can have a community that thrives together, where nobody is left behind. And so I just want to thank you again for being here with me. I genuinely appreciate it and wish you magnified success, whether you choose to continue to follow this platform or not. Thank you again, and in advance, enjoy the amazing day you're creating. Peace.